So my name is Jessica Peterson. I currently live in Kearney, Nebraska, and I have been a faculty member here. This is my second year now. But I guess I'm an up and coming scholar. I've been working in rural criminology and in the field since I started my dissertation around 2018. So I've been working in this field since then. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of binging. Right now it's October, and that is my favorite month, favorite season, spooky season. So I've been doing a lot of, I just finished Midnight Mass, which is a show on Netflix that I really like. It's kind of a horror type show. So I do a lot of horror movie watching during this season. Otherwise, I will often have a good staple on in the background, like The Office or Schitt's Creek. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of outside horror movie watching to get into the spirit right now. So in terms of one of the, I guess, biggest draws to rural criminology for me, it stems from the fact that I grew up in a rural area. Living in the country is just different. And I still have family and friends who live in rural areas. And when I started grad school and started realizing that a lot of scholarship in the crime and justice realm kind of overlooks people in rural areas, I just took an interest to trying to give those individuals more of a voice in the literature. I wanted to kind of see how people have access to justice there, how justice is carried out in a rural place, and just more specifically, law enforcement responses to crime problems in rural areas. It was just, again, kind of stems from my experience growing up there. And I have family that's worked in the criminal justice field. So all of that combined has just made me want to give a voice to community members in those types of communities. Currently, to that end, I finished up my dissertation research, so I've been putting together some manuscripts related to that work that I did in rural Texas. I'm also working on a couple of rural-focused books. So one of them is hopefully in production right now that looks at research methods in rural areas for rural criminologists. And then I'm working on a rural encyclopedia with several individuals that's putting together a nice little grouping of topics that could be addressed and maybe should be more addressed in rural areas. So those are some of my main things that I'm working on right now. That's a difficult question. I guess the magic wand part makes it a little bit easier. I think one thing that is problematic to me for rural communities is that there's not really, from what I've seen, there's not really a lack of people willing to do the work to better their communities or make change, to make access to justice easier, et cetera. It's more about they don't have the resources to be able to make those changes happen. So there are people there who want the best for their communities, who have identified problems in their own communities on their own, but they don't necessarily have the resources to make those changes. And there might be these kind of bureaucratic expectations and lack of understanding because so much of our research is focused on urban areas and crime reduction programs, et cetera, are centered on urban locations. And a lot of that doesn't translate well to rural communities. So that kind of lack of understanding, lack of attention to rural areas, I think prevents these communities from being able to make effective change where they deem it necessary. So I guess that kind of brings me back to my approach as a scholar is to really work closely as an academic with the practitioners in these areas so that we can better identify from the researcher side, better identify the problems that they're facing and be able to bridge that gap between basically policy for them, kind of bring that cultural competency part to policy, and better hopefully enact those things in rural communities.